Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I just want to talk about repaints and retools in the Jurassic World brand under Mattel, how I feel about them, and just kind of like the general consensus. I know a lot of people feel strongly about it, either like one way or the other. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle when it comes to it. I'm kind of like taking my own ideas from what people are saying, kind of the good and the bad of each side, and I just want to get through that. So firstly, what I just want to talk about are just overall like just the regular repaints, and kind of those are more of the raptors and such. If you notice, I'm putting up clips here of my collection. I don't have too many repaints of the larger kind of figures, but I do have a lot of the just repaints of the raptors because they get so many retools, and kind of the smaller ones like the Dilophosaurus as well. They're just kind of easy to get, and they're not as just large and kind of space consuming, because like I do have limited space over here. But overall, with raptors and the Dilophosaurus, it's really hit or miss. Honestly, I've liked what Mattel has done, their kind of creative license when it comes to just making cool kind of color variations of the raptors. But when it comes to, say, like the movies, I really do feel like, and I think I've stressed this before in my other videos, that before Mattel kind of really starts to branch out, I would really like them to focus more on the movies. Just getting the JP3 Raptors done and easy to find. The male was cancelled and the female was so hard to get to, and it really didn't kind of look like the counterpart from the movie. Also, we could have had another Lost World variant as well instead of just the one. And just kind of, well, we did get the big one finally, was the original Jurassic Park Raptors, and we were asking for those for so long, and it took a lot of just kind of campaigning, almost just like kind of telling Mattel what we want, but I feel like they really listened to the community in that sense. So in those types of repaints, I'm more than happy to pick them up, but when it comes to like just raptor repaints that aren't the or they're just random colors, I'm not too big on. Same goes with the Dilophosaurus and the other kind of smaller figures, because they're very easy to just repaint and repackage. Sometimes they don't even repaint them, they just repackage them. And those are alright, and those are just kind of essential to keep the line going, and they don't have to make too many like new species every single wave, because if you want to keep this line going for a long time, I think the best thing to do is getting these repaints for the smaller figures. Well, when it comes to the bigger figures, I noticed that what I have are just the rarer ones. And this is what Mattel should do when it comes to the larger kind of dinosaurs in the wave, in my opinion, which is basically if there was a dinosaur that was hard to find or really does deserve another sculpt or another another repaint, I should say, like the Spinosaurus. I managed to get both. I don't know how. It was super hard for me to get. Both the legacy one was super hard, and then the blue repaint was pretty cool. And that kind of leads into the retools before we get into that, because the retool of the Spinosaurus is super great. Honestly, it's just a crazy action feature, and that's something that makes me want to pick it up. But stuff like just different colors of the T-Rex are good, but when they kind of just go into the same kind of versions of each other, or just like larger figures with different reprints, like the let's think about it, just all the ones that we've had before, I'm not too inclined to pick them up, just because I just don't have space, and money is also an issue. So I gotta pick and choose. I noticed at the beginning of the toy line, I was very adamant about trying to complete the collection, but the more I realized that the Mattel line was gonna go a lot longer than just the year, I kind of backed off and I started to really pick and choose, and that's what most of us probably have been doing. So when it comes to the retools though, other than the battle damage, because I feel like most of the smaller and medium-sized figures, and even the larger ones, have a battle damage counterpart and a regular counterpart, just to have that Walmart exclusive. And I was really just kind of iffy on like which to obtain, and then it kind of got iffy. It's just that they're basically the same figure, just one has battle damage with maybe just some slight alterations, and those are good as well, just kind of keeping with variation, and sometimes they're actually really cool. But overall, I really do feel like with some of the larger figures, I just don't have space and I already have the regular ones. So overall, the retools and the repaints are honestly, I feel, they're necessary for the line, but what I would say my main kind of criticism here, and I do a lot of criticism on this channel, I noticed in my past few videos, but honestly it's just kind of me telling what I feel like a lot of people are wanting from Mattel. So when they do make that stuff, and they have before with like the Legacy Raptors and stuff, it's just basically telling them like, here, I have the money, there's a certain thing that I want and you guys can provide it. We're just kind of waiting for you guys to do it. So it's almost just like a letter to Mattel saying just we're so close to like actually spending the money, but if you could do it a certain way. But there are a few things that I've always wanted to see them tackle. Just like we have the Ankylosaurus and we have the Stegosaurus. If you just made the Stegosaurus with brown plates and a green body, that would be perfect for the Legacy collection. I would buy that instantly. Same with the Ankylosaurus. If you had it with a black kind of top kind of carapace kind of area, and then with a kind of a red face and brown underbody, that would be perfect. Again, from Jurassic Park 3, would buy that instantly. But when you have the like the Stegosaurus in that kind of weird, like it was like a green and like I think it's like a gray almost. It was a very like strange coloration. And same with the Ankylosaurus, is like all yellow, and they're cool looking, but they just didn't work for me. I think a lot of ones that people point out are the that were bad repaints are the Ceratosaurus and the let's see, what was it, the Metrocanthosaurus. Those were just again, if you just those are really bad in my opinion. But if you just made it to the point where like you had the Metrocanthosaurus with the green kind of stripes that they had in Evolution as a repaint, or the Ceratosaurus, like they just kind of did this slight paint variation for kind of Cretaceous. I would definitely have picked those up if they did that the first time. But when I saw that kind of group of repaints, I could not like want to purchase those, because it just, the colors were clashing and it was just not my deal. And now let's see. So we talked about just like the retools and the repaints. I guess another one we could talk about, and kind of looking over to my figure collection here, was the Allosaurus. That's a pretty good example of okay retool. I love the head, but only I do feel like just to have a larger Allosaur, because the one from the first line was supposed to be the juvenile. Instead of using that same body, they for that one they should have actually resculpted the whole just the whole figure to be a completely different dinosaur, because they're an adult and a juvenile. But for things like the Sinoceratops, we've been waiting for it for so long. I'm still just very wary with Target, always checking Collect Jurassic and stuff like that to make sure it hasn't released yet. But if they just reuse the body sculpt from the old Pachyrhinosaurus and slapped on a Sinoceratops head, I'll be completely fine. Like honestly, it looks pretty accurate to the body at least looks pretty the same to a normal Ceratopsian. And that's a place where Mattel could save a lot of money, and they could use these retools. And I would have bought it instantly. I'm still happy with the new Sinoceratops we're getting, and a new sculpt as well. But I wouldn't have been too mad if they used the retool of that. So honestly, it's kind of picking and choosing to where you want to invest that extra money. So if they kind of flipped it to where, like, say the Allosaurus was the one that they had to retool for a whole different sculpt, and for the Sinoceratops they could have just used the sculpt from the other Pachyrhinosaurus, that would have been fine. But you know, things happen when it comes to working with larger companies and so many people. So all these gripes are, again, small, but these are just kind of things that I've kind of noticed and almost want Mattel to kind of get behind as well. The Spinosaurus and other hard-to-find figures, and even the Pachyrhinosaurus that we did get, that should really get a repaint, and I would have honestly get it. But they seem to always reuse certain figures and for repaints, and kind of leave other ones just kind of in the dust. Things like the Pachyrhinosaurus, the Quetzalcoatlus, and the Tapijara, just off the top of my head, those are some that I would really like to see repaints of, but we just haven't gotten. Especially just to like differentiate the Pachyrhinosaurus now from the Sinoceratops, giving it a nice kind of natural kind of paint job would have been great. But overall, just could have been implemented better. But it's fine. Now, I guess going on to other topics. Looking back at the whole Jurassic Park line, I think a good example of a retool would have been the Tapijara, bringing him back, just even though we're talking about it. But the Tapijara from Jurassic Park 3 was a retool of the Pteranodon. And honestly, I actually didn't even get the Pteranodon as a kid. I actually got the Tapijara. I grew up with Jurassic Park 3. It was like a really big... I know a lot of other people in the community. They're a little bit older than I am, so they grew up with 2. But for me, I was right around that age where 3 was a big kind of... It was the first Jurassic Park movie that I did watch, and it was a really big kind of moment for me. But anyways, that Tapijara is honestly a perfect example of like doing a retool correctly. And I know it might not be the most accurate, but as a kid, I really enjoyed it, and it was something different, and it was just kind of really cool to see. And giving it a paint job that still looked realistic. I think going back to the Mattel ones, stuff that I just cannot get behind were the, like, even though I did get one, the Dilophosaurus, are those just kind of crazy and outlandish paint jobs. I think I mentioned it earlier back here in the video, talking about the those kind of 3 retools of or repaints of the Ankylosaurus, the what was it? The Ceratosaurus, and then the Metriacanthosaurus. Those 3 I just could not justify getting just because the paint was not good. So I guess my point of what I'm trying to say is, if you do repaints and retools correctly, I would be very willing to buy another whatever species. But just overall lately, I've been noticing I've been skipping on even the cool kind of repackages of a lot of the figures and the ones from Camp Cretaceous. Just because, like, again, as good as those repaints are, I do have limited space, and I gotta really make decisions now on like what I want to go after. But if you do, again, like, go into the movies and kind of get those paint jobs that we still don't have, I'll be more than willing to get those. My kind of guess would be is during Dominion, just kind of like how we had a lot of Legacy Collection in the beginning, they're gonna go back and probably go through 3, because honestly there's a lot of dinosaurs from 3 and a few from 2 that they haven't done, whether they be a complete retool or a completely new species, or there are a lot of repaints that can be done just because we've had so many variations of dinosaurs in the past. So if Mattel just kind of capitalizes on those nostalgic dinosaurs that we that are very a part of the franchise, they just haven't been made into toy form yet, I would really appreciate just kind of like seeing that. And it's honestly going to make me spend more money. But if they kind of go the route of just releasing just the same sculpt with different paint jobs that don't kind of tap that nostalgic chord, it'll be fine for kids. But I'm sure a lot of them have seen the 3 movies, the 3 original movies, and would be also inclined to pick those up. And overall, just like, you really do have to tap that nostalgic chord, because I feel like as Mattel is kind of giving us all these dinosaurs, just different species, we're kind of straying away from the Jurassic Park dinosaurs, as in just like what the kind of the movie is based on, you know? So I think their first priority really should be getting those repaints of the film accurate dinosaurs out there. And that's kind of the way I would be willing to spend another raptor or another ankylosaurus, you know. But again, let's I mean, we've had so many interesting repaints. Again, like getting ones that they really listened to us with the Spinosaurus, having ones that just are very hard to find, or something happened during the initial run of the figure, so having those shipped out as a new sculpt or a new print would really does help. I mean, like, looking at, I know we haven't talked about it, but the Dimetrodon, it was canceled from the Toys R Us kind of shutdown there, and they managed to bring it back in another sculpt, another print, and it wasn't too half bad. I honestly liked it. So those are kind of my long rambling thoughts about retools and repaints. I really do. I'm holding out that they will kind of bring us everything that we've been asking for with all these, like the Ford Explorer, all of the kind of things that they've been noticing the community has been kind of dying for. Because we know Mattel is so good that we know they can kind of make anything at this point with the Brachiosaurus and Spinosaurus. It's like just things and dinosaurs that we've always loved and always seen. They have the ability to bring them back into toy form in a really good and accurate way. So I think that just only made the fans, and myself included, kind of more hungry for everything. Because I mean, they've been producing these toys for a very long time now. Fallen Kingdom, even though it feels like it was just yesterday, came out a few years ago now. But they've given us so many dinosaurs that I never thought would see kind of the light of day in toy form, and just like the accuracy too. So I think Mattel, honestly, they did such a good job that they made us and like the fans just be like, well, you made this. Now, I mean, we know you can make this, and we're ready to buy it almost. So I do feel like repaints and retools are a necessary part of like keeping the toy line going, keeping it on shelves, and keeping just like normal kids and like not everyday fans just like willing to buy to help support the franchise. But I mean, if you like, there's nothing different from releasing an Ankylosaurus with, you know, yellow and green rather than the black and the red head. Because honestly, that doesn't that would satisfy everybody. I think just a little bit more. And having that Stegosaurus with just like the Stegosaurus colors that we've seen kind of across the board when it comes to Jurassic World. So those are my thoughts. Sorry, this one was very rambly. I just had kind of a lot to think about, a lot to say about it. And I hope you enjoyed. Anyways, thanks guys.